order the May 13th meeting of the Concord City Council. Would you please all stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councillor Brown.
Here.
Mayor Champlin.
Present.
Councillor Fennessy.
Present.
Councillor Foote.
He's in the building. He's somewhere.
Councillor Grady Sexton. Here. Councillor Horn.
Here.
Councillor Keach.
Here.
Councillor Kredovic.
Here.
Councillor Kurtz.
Here.
Councillor McLaughlin.
Here.
Councillor McNamara.
Here.
Councillor Schlosser.
Here.
Councillor Schultz. Here. Councillor Shaku.
Present.
Councillor Todd.
Here. Check on foot again.
I think Councilor Foote is here.
Present.
All right. Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of our April 8th, 2024 City Council
Move
meeting?
approval?
Second.
Moved by Councilor Kurtz and seconded?
It was moved by Councillor Grady
Oh,
Sexton.
I'm sorry,
Which
Councillor
only
Grady
matters
Sexton.
because I was not present, and so I would not have
Thank you.
moved to accept the minutes.
Recognizing Councilor Brown.
Yes, I would like to amend the minutes. Is that, or do you have to discussion?
But
Oh.
where would you amend the minutes?
On
Councilor?
page 12, I would simply like to add where it says Councilor Brown moved to delay the vote on two appointments after April 15th, 2024, or one of whom did not provide a resume or place of employment.
Councilor, that's a little bit fine-grained.
Yes, I agree. And I would like to state that I think it's important to put that in there because it sets a precedent that you are not required to submit a resume or list your job. Somebody who may feel their resume doesn't reflect a desire, say they're not a traffic engineer, but they have always loved this. They won't feel hindered by a resume. They do not have to submit a resume or list their place of employment in order to be considered for a committee.
Councilor, I think that the minutes serve well as they stand, as a record of what happened.
However, there was one exclusion or one allowance that I think did set a precedence, and I think we should have that in the record.
Well, I disagree. Councilor Kredovic?
Thanks, Your Honor. Councilor Brown, are you making a motion to amend the minutes?
Yes, I am making a motion to amend the minutes to include the statement I gave.
All right. Is there a second? Hearing none, I'll
second it.
Councilor Schlosser seconds. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor of the motion before us is to amend the minutes as indicated by Councilor Brown. That is the motion. If you are in favor of that change, you vote yes. If you're opposed to that change, you vote no. All those in favor of the motion as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no?
No.
Noes have it. Thank you. I'll now move the original motion, which is to approve the minutes of the April 8th meeting as presented. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no? Ayes have it. Thank you. We now move to the consent calendar. I'll note that items 24 and 28 have been removed from consent by Councilor Kurtz and Councilor Brown, I believe. May I have a motion on the consent calendar? Councilor Brown.
Excuse me, yes, I am recusing myself from consent agenda item number 20
All right.
because my husband is a police officer.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Keach.
I'm sorry. I'm premature.
All right, thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the consent calendars with items 24 and 28 removed?
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in
Yeah,
favor?
Your Honor,
Councilor Keach.
I have two issues. I'll be voting against the motion. My original inclination was to move that we not accept Councilor Brown's motion to remove that 24. So I don't know if I can amend that motion
No,
to include item 28
8.
and exclude 24 would be my motion.
I'll second.
I'm sorry. Now, the chair is uncertain of what you're doing, Councilor. Could you
Okay.
explain that again?
Yes, I would like to remove the request to remove 24 from consent. I would like to include 24 in consent.
Counselor, I believe that the rules state that any city councilor can remove something from consent. It's not up for a vote. It is removed from consent at the request of the city councilor.
Okay, I'll make my points at the time.
All right, thank you, Counselor. All right, I'm going to move the question. All those in favor of adopting the consent calendar, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no?
No.
Okay, the ayes have it. We now move to the public hearing portion of the meeting. Madam Clerk, item 33A.
It's a resolution appropriating the sum of $65,722.88 in the wastewater fund as a transfer out to capital and authorizing the use of wastewater fund balance for this purpose and appropriating the sum of $65,722.88 in the equipment replacement project CIP number 121 to restore previously reprogrammed funding and accepting the sum of $65,722.88 as a transfer from the wastewater fund for this purpose.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. City Manager.
Your Honor, members of the council, during a recent review of the closed capital projects, we discovered that 2 sub-projects within the equipment replacement project program had expended amounts that were reprogrammed during the CIP closeout process. So what we do is we go back, look at all the projects, and if we think there's money going to be left, we reprogram them for other projects. In this case, those dollars were needed for those projects, so we need to appropriate dollars in the amount as voiced by City Clerk to complete the projects that are required.
Thank you. Any questions for the City Manager?
Thank you.
All right. I'll open the public hearing. Are there any members of the public who would like to testify on this item? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Madam Clerk, item 33B.
It's an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, Title I, General Code, Chapter 1, Government Organization, Article 1-5, Fees, Fines, and Penalties, Schedule 1.
Mr. City Clerk?
I'll get demoted.
Mr. City Manager, sorry.
Exactly.
It's one of those nights. I apologize.
I'm honored. Janice to give me
Make sure that gets into the minutes.
Exactly. So annually, each city department revises and recommends fee increases and changes or decreases, in the case of changes based on inflation, market conditions, or budget changes. While non-ordinance fees that are, do not require public hearings, we include them in this process so everybody can see all the fees at once. Departments continue with a more strategic approach to raising rates and fees and penalties. Both ordinance and non-ordinance fees increase recommendations are outlined in the chart. I'd be glad to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you. Any questions for the City Manager? Councilor Brown.
Thank you. Mr. City Manager, are there any fees levied against developers for traffic studies that our departments must conduct?
It's not a fee. If somebody comes before, well, Mr. Walsh is here, maybe he can best answer that. So.
Good evening. Your question was, are there any fees that are levied against developers for traffic studies? So to the extent that a real estate development project requires a traffic study, the developer does provide a traffic study. We do a review for that. There is a fee that's charged to the developer for the outside review if it's required. The city also has transportation impact fees, which are charged to development projects, primarily residential projects, for the impacts that they may have on the local street network.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Walsh. By the way, good to have you back.
Oh, thank you. It's good to be back.
Any further questions for the City Manager? All right, seeing none, I'll open the public hearing. Would anyone like to testify on this item? Mr. Schweiker.
Good evening, mayors, members of the city council, city manager, and city clerk. I'm Roy Schweiker, and I was surprised at how few and how small the increases were. An awful lot of these fees are not being increased at all, and the ones that are being increased, a lot of them are 4%. And my impression is that the general cost of running the city is up well over 4%. So I would think that all the fees would tend to be increased at least that much, and some of the particular fees a lot more for the departments that have been giving bonuses and so forth. And the problem is that to the extent that we don't collect the money in fees, it's got to be paid out of the property tax. So I guess, amazingly enough, I'm going to say, sure, raise all these fees and raise them some more to make sure we're getting our expenses covered and not getting them, stuck on the rest of us. And in particular, it's very hard to tell from the information that was posted which of these fees were being treated today, because one of the things was headed ordinance and non-ordinance fees, even though that may not be the case. So I'm particularly interested in seeing that the ones that may not be in the hearing today, but if they are, I want to get this in. That, like the sewer hookups, we need to include the cost of building and expanding the sewers in the fee for sewer hookups. That should not be part of the general tax rate, and it should not be part of the general sewer rate. If we're having to expand the sewers or extend them for development, the developer should be paying that, and not either the sewer users or the property taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schweiker. Any questions for Mr. Schweiker? Thank you very much. Good to see you. Anyone else like to testify on this item? All right, seeing none, I will close the public hearing on item 33B and open the hearing, and move to item 33C. City Clerk.
It's an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, Title 5, Administrative Code, Chapter 35, Classification and Compensation Plan, Schedule D of Article 35-2, Class Specification Index, reorganization of the General Services, Highways, and Utilities Division.
Thank you very much. Mr. City Manager.
Your Honor, members of the council, with the resignation of a long-term department employee of the General Services, the position of road crew supervisor provide us an opportunity for realignment of the Highway and Utilities Division. The Highways and Utility Division has previously undertaken similar realignments as retirements or resignations have occurred, so we've brought them to you for your action. In this case, the General Service Department believes that this realignment will improve the organization and provides structure to better serve the city. Further, the realignment will be no net increase in employees and actually represents a modest savings in the general fund. So I won't go through the pluses and minuses here for the titles of the positions, but you can see it's really just a realignment of responsibilities and position titles.
Thank you very much. Any questions for the City Manager? Councilor Todd.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. City Manager, is there a reason why you're bringing this forth at this time as opposed to just waiting and rolling this into the budget discussions?
Yes, good memory. So in the past, the City Council preferred to do this as part of the budget, but if you wait to do it as part of the budget, we've had this position's been vacant for a little time now. You wouldn't take action on that really for another month, and then what happens after that? Then we bring only the City Council can create the position titles and the wage scale, so or the labor grade, which determines the wage scale. So then we need to come back in with an ordinance change for that. So that would be picture June meeting for July action. Then you would advertise in July at the earliest after the July meeting. So it would really delay us up to 2 months for going out and filling a position. In most cases, I'll wait to do that so that you can see everything together. But in this case, being that we're really realigning positions and it's saving dollars, I thought it might be, you'd like to have it come in early, and we wouldn't have the position open for 2 to 3 months in addition to what it's normally going to take.
Follow up?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, Mr. Manager. I guess the reason I'm focusing on this particularly because it's come to my attention recently, and actually for some time this has been an issue ongoing with regard to the pavement markings, that they're fading very quickly. And so actually there was recently a parking committee meeting where this issue came up, and there was some information we received from the police that in fact it affects their ability to ticket offenders sometimes. So I was kind of hoping I was kind of wondering if we could somehow incorporate a discussion about this. Maybe whenever you think is the most appropriate time, and we can
Bring them in?
Yeah, exactly.
So bring them in faster.
Yeah.
So like this. So, and this is the earliest we can, of course, we're looking at this, that's why I'm not waiting until the budget to do it.
Right. To follow up, yes. So, but in other words, my question then specifically is that the hope is that this change will, and can you or someone speak to how this change will in fact improve the speed with which we, or the frequency with which we do the pavement markings? Is that sort of part of what's?
Sure. It'll bring a greater, it'll
Yes,
bring a
ma'am.
greure focus to be able to actually align to do that. But I think one of the things with the pavement markings is because with we use a good quality paint, but it actually fades much quicker because of the different requirements that for environmental purposes of the type of paint that we use. So reality, many times this paint only lasts about 6 months. So we like to do the painting as early as we can in the spring after the street sweeping process takes place, but also just before school starts when we can, particularly crosswalks and whatnot in school zones. So there's a timing to this to make sure we get it done. And of course, depending on the weather, if it rains a lot during the spring, you can't get out there and do it without it moving. So this will hopefully allow that to go forward, but I think you're going to still see that fading occurring just as it does now. We're just going to have to be painting more often.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for the city manager? Councilor Brown?
Thank you. Mr. City Manager, so we approved this evening. Will we receive an updated budget reflecting the change in the line block chart,
I don't,
costs?
is Brian there?
Yes, he is. He's hiding behind Councilor Foot.
No, I think this will be reflected in next year's.
Well, actually, we do have this reflected in the FY25 budget as it's coming through. So if you look at your budget and you look at the summary portions of the personnel pages in that first summary section, you'll see the description of these, pretty much the same thing as being outlined here. So it's reflected here just to get a jump start in order to get it into Schedule D and the council ordinances, but it's also included in the budget. So everything in the FY25 budget will reflect what you're actually doing here.
Okay. So what is in the budget reflects this being approved?
What is in the proposed budget by the manager for FY25 is in this, what's being
Reflects this.
considered
Thank you.
here this evening.
Yeah, I think if you go to the section that identifies, in the personnel section, that identifies the personnel changes, right at the last
Yeah, it's
page
the very last pages, as you look at all the FTEs are, and you go back to the very last pages after a couple of pie charts, you'll see that there's a summary of all the changes, and you'll read down through it. It's a little bit complex as you read down through it, but it reflects everything that you're doing over here. There are a few other things that are included in there, but what you're doing here is reflected in that
Okay,
summary.
thank you. Great.
Any other questions for the city manager? All right, seeing none, I will open the public hearing. Would anyone like to testify on this item? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. We'll move to the public hearing action. Madam Clerk, item 34.
It's a resolution appropriating the sum of $65,722.88 in the wastewater fund as a transfer out to capital and authorizing the use of wastewater fund balance for this purpose and appropriating the sum of $65,722.88 in the equipment replacement project, CIP number 121, to restore previously reprogrammed funding and accepting the sum of $65,722.88 as a transfer from the wastewater fund for this purpose.
I think it's terrible that we made you read that twice. You have nothing further to add. Do I have a motion?
Move approval?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor of adopting the motion as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The motion passes with the necessary 2/3 majority. Madam Clerk, item 35.
It's an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, Title I, General Code, Chapter 1, Government Organization, Article 1-5, Fees, Fines, and Penalties, Schedule 1.
All right, do I have a motion?
Move approval?
Moved, seconded?
Second.
Moved and seconded, all right. Any discussion? Councilor Kretovic.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would just note that there are 12 brand-new fees that we've never had before, and I'm not 100% sure that the figure that Mr. Schweiker gave to us or to the public was a true figure, because 12 of these items are 100% difference than what we had previously, because they are brand new.
All right, thank you. Any other discussion? Counselor Brown?
I'm just curious, per Mr. Schweiker's comment about the developer not paying hookup fees. Can we have additional information on that?
Mr. City Manager?
They do, I think the question is the increase in the hookup.
Okay.
Do you want to?
So there are utility connection fees that developers pay for water and sewer when they are doing that. The fee that establishes what that is, it's somewhat formulaic, but there's also tiers that go along with that. I think what Mr. Schweiker was referring to is looking at those connection fees relative to impacts on the water and sewer system for upsizing and making future capital investments. If that's something the council wants to look at, we could look at that fee if they wanted to. The city has addressed, the city does not have water or sewer impact fees per se. In the past, the city has had water and sewer investment fees that have been collected, which the previous council moved away from after they were established 30 years ago. But if that's something that the council wants to look at, it's something that we could take back if that was the will of the council.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Any other questions for Mr. Walsh? Counselor Kerr?
Actually, never
Counselor
mind.
Schultz,
I
I'm
should
sorry.
ask you offline. Never mind.
All set? Okay. Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Any further discussion? All right, I'll put the motion to the vote. All those in favor of the motion as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. Madam Clerk, item 36.
It's an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, Title V, Administrative Code, Chapter 35, Classification and Compensation Plan, Schedule D of Article 35-2, Class Specification Index, reorganization of the General Services, Highways, and Utilities Division.
Thank you very much. Do I have a motion? Moved and seconded, okay. Any discussion? All right, I'll put it to a vote. All those in favor of the motion as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Thank you very much. We now will move to comments by the mayor and city council. Councilor Todd.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just want to send out a reminder that on Sunday, May 26th, the Pennacook Association is sponsoring the third annual Pennacook Memorial Day Parade. It will start around the Merrimack Valley High School and proceed down Village Street to Boudreaux Square, where there will be a brief ceremonial moment, and then conclude down Washington Street at the old Washington Street School. So hope that all of you can come out and attend that if possible. I look forward to seeing you there. Thank you.
Councilor Kretovic.
Thank you, Your Honor. Last month, the council will remember that we took up an initiative with regards to employee retention incentives. One of those incentives was in relationship to a reduced green fee for members of our city staff if they wanted to golf at Beaver Meadow. I'm glad to report at this point in time, we're 1 month in, literally, of having the golf course be open, that 10% of our workforce have taken advantage of this. They are all members from police, fire, general services, as well as our administrative offices. So it really is across the board to all of the individuals that we had hoped that this would incentivize to stay and work with us. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor McNamara.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just want to thank Alex from Revelstoke and the city for working together on all their initiatives to make the outdoor event, that we've had 2 of them. What I just kept hearing over and over when I went to both of them is people saying, this is great. People brought families, they were outdoors, what the city needs to do more of this. It serves those who are locally, the community, not to mention all the great local shops that were being served because of this. And I just hope that we can continue that. And I really thank the city for working with Alex on this initiative.
You're referencing the coffee festival.
Coffee and cars, yeah.
All right. Councilor Brown.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just would like to recognize, NHTI for their amazing partnership On the tree committee, we had a capstone student from their environmental studies produce a pamphlet and a poster for the city to disseminate to residents about trees that thrive in Concord, how trees cool. There's a poster that is available to us that's informational, how to use trees for green infrastructure. And that was free, and that was done by an NHTI student for our city, which I think is fantastic. And also, NHTI is providing for students who enroll a general elective credit when they complete lifeguard training. So I think that is another fantastic benefit NHTI is providing to our city, because when we have more lifeguards, we have a greater social infrastructure available. And I'd also like to point out that the S&W Bike Swap is this Saturday, and it is a really wonderful, affordable way to recreate, to get inexpensive transportation. There have been electric bikes there. There have been tandem bikes there. You can unload some of your bikes inexpensively, when you can also donate, and those proceeds typically have gone to the Merrimack River Greenway Trail or CNHBC, which is the Central New Hampshire Biking Coalition. So I highly recommend folks check out S&W on Saturday and Sunday. Thank you.
Thank you. Comments? Councilor Fennessy.
Thank you. I have a couple things. The first, I want to thank the mayor for joining hundreds of boys and girls and their families at the Concord Little League and Concord National opening day. Mayor Champlin, I don't know if it was a strike, but he threw a nice pitch to the son of Councilor Sexton. It was low and away. I think that's fair.
I think that catcher Sexton was very kind to me and helped me look much better than I was.
But it was really great. It was actually the first time that Concord National has joined Concord Little League for opening day. They've now joined the Little League umbrella organization, so it was great to have a bunch of people out there. It was a beautiful day. It might have been the only sunny day in that rainy week. So that was one thing. The second thing I had, there was a request last month for the Beaver Meadow Golf Course to collect some information regarding memberships and whether or not they were Concord residents. At our meeting last Thursday, the report back was as of, I guess it was May 5th. There were 276 members. Of those, 225 are residents, so about 82% of the membership are Concord residents. Thanks.
Interesting.
Thank you.
I just want to thank everybody for giving your wishes for my father's passing. Thank you very much.
I think I speak for everyone around the table, Councilor, when we say that our hearts are with you. It's a tough loss.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Councilor Foote.
Thank you. I hope everybody had a wonderful Mother's Day yesterday. It was a great day for many people, and I hope you enjoyed your day if you have children or other. One of the things that I did in the last month, I attended the Crisis Center of Central New Hampshire's Resiliency Breakfast, and really learned a lot about their efforts, and it's very uplifting, their goal to eradicate sexual violence and human trafficking, because, we live in Concord and it's a great place to live, but, we've got some work to do. So I really appreciated, I learned a lot by attending that breakfast, and I'm very happy Mr. Schweiker showed up this evening, because I think in the past you've all heard me talk about impact fees and developer contributions to projects. So I think we've got some work to do, but I think we may be on the correct path, and I hope to be part of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Any others? All right. I would feel remiss, since Councilor Todd mentioned the Pennacook Memorial Day Parade, not to mention the Concord Memorial Day Parade, which will be Monday morning, the 27th, I think, is it? And I'm afraid that I did not come as prepared as Councilor Todd, assuming that someone else of patriotic bent would mention the Memorial Day Parade. I believe it starts at 9
a.m. Yes. Yeah.
9 o'clock, I believe. And it will end, it starts at the King Parish, and it will end at the World War II and subsequent war memorial on City Hall Plaza. So I encourage people to come out and to enjoy the Memorial Day Parade in both locations. Alas for you, I will be at both. And I hope other city councilors would join us. Mr. City Manager, do you have any comments?
Nothing to add, Your Honor.
All right, thank you very much. This moves us to consideration of items that were pulled from the consent agenda. Madam Clerk, item 24.
This was pulled from the consent agenda by Councilor Brown. It's a report to council requesting authorization for street closures for the Cars and Coffee event.
Thank you. Councilor Brown, would you like to speak to your
Yes.
removal?
Yes, thank you. And first, I'd like to say to the owners of Revelstoke that I love the event. I think it's fantastic. And when I first saw it, my reaction was, I want to see these cars drag race down Main Street. And that reaction, some people were not as excited as I was to see that. But the reason I pulled this report is I think this is a wonderful event because I do see it attract people, but I want to know what is our process for shutting down Main Street in case we have, if we have other folks that have great ideas, what is the process to do something like this?
Make a request of the city manager, Councilor. Is that correct? Mr. Zimmer, you want to speak to that?
Sure. All the street closures come through my office, and then I review them and make a determination after talking with various staff about whether or not it's a good idea for the community. We probably get, say maybe half a dozen a month, and then if they make sense to do, we add them, we approve them. If they make sense, if they don't make sense because they have an impact on something else or it's a public safety issue, that we don't. In this case, because this is typically something that councils have been around for a number of years, remember maybe 15 years ago or so, every request came to the city council for action. Sorry, I wasn't looking at you, man. Every request came to the city council for action, so you'd have to really be out in front by at least a month or 2 months making that request, and the city council would take a vote on each one. And it got to the point where, because of that time delay, they said to just let the city manager do it. So I've been doing it for 15 or 20 years and never had a complaint about anyone that I made a decision on. And there's been all kinds of requests for everything from closing Main Street to do running races, to closing whole sections of the city for Halloween events, to all kinds of different things. And we've generally been able to accommodate folks in different ways for what their needs are. In this case, because it's closing, and if something that the city council has sponsored in the past, then that to me is a clear sign that it's something you support and that you want to do. In this case, this is a new event. It's closing down Main Street. In my experience, every time we close Main Street for anything, half the people are very excited about it, and the other half the people are very not excited about it. So in this case, I thought it'd be for the first time, bring it to you for action. If you think it's a good idea to do it, then we do it. And in the future, if it's something we want to do on an annual basis, I wouldn't bring it back. It would be something we'd continue to do, very much like the Rock and Race, or the closing of Auburn Street for Halloween. Those were all things that I just decided to do. Or Tohoto Street has a great picnic up there, they do, or a block party that they do, things like that.
Just as you had said, yes, thank you, Your Honor. My only concern with this is that, like you said, some people, like I know I like it, but being cognizant, this is Main Street, this is downtown. You said half the people don't like it. So have you talked with any downtown businesses or the chamber or in town to get there?
No, what I do is I talk to city staff and what their experiences, how it gets run, and the Revelstoke folks who have done this in the past. I've seen a couple of their events, the way it's worked. It's very well managed. They understand what the impact of the community is. They're looking out for, I think, the community when they do this. So I felt comfortable bringing this forward. Otherwise, you would have the request from Revelstoke to do this, but you'd have a report from me saying, please don't do this. And that's not the case. So, and after I talked to staff, we thought it'd be something that it's worth trying.
Okay. Further discussion?
Yes.
Councilor Keach?
Thank you, Your Honor. 2 points. First, I'm a little surprised that Councilor Brown brought this forward because I do think she has a conflict in the interest. The report clearly states that there'll be police details there, and I think that presents a bit of a conflict, but that's secondary to my objection. I think, as the manager touched on, for so many years, there are literally dozens of street closures that go by city staff, reviewed by staff, police, fire, general services, the appropriate folks, departments review the request and make a determination. The report clearly said this is a great idea. I'm just not sure why we would substitute our judgment for the staff's judgment. And the other point I wanted to make is an event like this where a local shop owner volunteers, I would guess, hundreds of hours to organize such an event, and the amount of economic development. And earlier in the evening we talked about how different ways to generate economic development. This is just a no-brainer. It is cost the city nothing, $0. It happens on a Sunday morning. I've been to previous events. I can testify as to Councilor McNamara's point, just how many hundreds of people are down there, and just what a huge benefit something like this is to the city. So I just object that you would pull it, Councilor Brown, because this is just something that we shouldn't spend a lot of time with, and we ought to move forward with it.
Are you making a motion?
I'd make a motion that we pass the...
I have questions.
Councilor, there'll be time for
I'm making a
discussion
motion,
after
however.
the motion. You
Okay.
can't interrupt a motion. Thank you.
I'd make a motion that we go ahead and pass the request.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion.
Thank you. I thought that discussion was still on because we make a motion, I think, when discussion is over, but thank you.
That's all right.
I think it does make sense for Alex as a business owner and for anybody. Because if you put something on consent agenda because it's a new idea, going forward, any new idea will come to a consent agenda or not. That's one. Secondly, for all of us here to know the process. People like new councillors, we don't know the process. And if the city manager choose and pick which one to bring to the council and which one not to, I think it does make sense to have it here, to discuss it, and then see. The only reason I brought it is because it's new. Going forward, is all new project will come to the council, or it's just the one that you don't feel comfortable to go through?
Councilor.
Thank you.
Sorry, city manager.
In my mind, anything that would close Main Street, that I would bring to council, because I think that has a big effect, is what you're seeing happening. If this was Main Street 15 years ago, then nobody would care, because nobody would know there's an event downtown.
Particularly on a Sunday.
On a Sunday, right? But now you're actually going to have, picture, you have the folks who live in it's the Remy Block building, right, who now park on Main Street. You're going to have 64 units of housing that's going to open up on South Main Street, right, and within the next few months. And what's going to happen is many times what we find is when people have people over, or they don't want to park in a garage on a Sunday, they'll park on Main Street. So now, if you can imagine how these things work, to make sure that the street is going to be open on Sunday, we're going to have to close down some of the streets earlier than that, right, and actually get cars off the streets. So you won't be able to have the same type of freedom of parking where you are now. Now, people will get used to that over time, but when you're doing something new on Main Street in particular, there's an impact like that. So it's good to bring it to people's attention to do it. But if somebody all of a sudden wanted to change another street on, Grace Street or something like that for a block party, I wouldn't bring that to you. Again, I've been doing this for 15 years. This is the first one I brought to you because it's Main Street. And I think the community should know about it.
Councilor, follow up?
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you,
Just move that away a little bit.
Mr. City Manager, and I think that makes sense. And discussing things and making people aware, I don't think it's a problem. I think it's always good to have those type of conversations. So people that are new can learn, but also going forward, people that are listening to us know what the process is. Because as Alex requested, somebody might come request and somebody might come request. So now any business owner that is watching us tonight knows that, hey, if this is a new idea, know that it's going to the city council.
That's not the case. So I made clear that is not the case.
So you see, but that's why those conversations are important. And I think I do support those when it comes to this so that we are all clear. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Further discussion? Oh,
Thank you.
Counselor Fennessy.
Thank you. I want to thank the city manager for giving us a report on this. Frankly, I don't think he needed to. I think this is something that I trust your judgment on, and since you've been doing it for 15 years. I had the pleasure of walking down on Sunday morning. It was fabulous. It was a great collection of people, local people. There were New York license plates, there was Massachusetts license plates, there's people from all over. Obviously, I'm sure there was some financial benefit for Revelstoke with people going in, but every coffee shop on Main Street that was open was packed. You could not find a parking space on Main Street on a Sunday morning, which, 15 years ago, there was plenty of parking available. I'd say even 10 years ago, there was plenty of parking available.
I would have recommended, Counselor, that you park in one of the parking garages, which were free on Saturday.
So I appreciate that that the city manager thought it was appropriate to give us a report to let us all know what was going on, particularly that it's now going to affect Main Street. But I do think that we've already spent too much time on this, and so I will be supporting the motion.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Grady-Sexton.
Thank you, Your Honor. And I'll be very brief and say that I just want to thank Alex and Lindsay for everything they're doing in this community. I had the pleasure with some others in serving on the Main Street Committee, 12 years ago now, and I think this is exactly what we envisioned, was having a vibrant downtown that attracted people to our beautiful city from all over New England. That is exactly what you both are making come true, and I think I can speak for many other Concord residents and thanking you for everything you're doing with the downtown community, and I will be supporting Councilor Keach's motion as a result.
Councilor Brown.
Thank you. I think it is a wonderful event, absolutely. But I do think that we owe it to the residents, just as the city manager said, other businesses, to give them an opportunity to comment, because they may say, hey, this is happening at the same time, and allow us an opportunity to come to a solution before September 8th. I don't think there's any harm in giving the businesses and residents that will be impacted an opportunity to speak to this, rather than make a decision without their input, because they are going to be impacted. I don't think it's fair to make a decision without getting their input.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Kretovic, and then Counselor Mack.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just to go back to that thought about what was going on 15 years ago in our community on Main Street, there was a young entrepreneur that started a saying that said, Concord got cool when you weren't looking, in order to drive tourism in the city. And I know this couple was behind some of that strategy of getting that message across. When we did our Main Street project, we wanted to come out of this with a goal. We are not going to emulate Portsmouth. We are never going to emulate Portsmouth. We are going to be a Concord. And this says we are Concord, because Portsmouth doesn't have this. Concord has this. Thank you.
Councilor McNamara.
I do appreciate, Councilor Brown, that you were concerned about the local establishments and the owners of stores, but I think that was something that Alex already thought of. He did do a survey, and he went around to all his peer local store owners and said, what do you think? I don't have that data in my head, but I know that it was positive, and I believe that he would not go ahead with something if the majority of his peers who own shops would not be interested. And if there were concerns, I strongly believe that he would listen and work with them on that. So I will be supporting this.
Thank you, Counselor. Any further comment? Councilor Brown.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Counselor, because that would make a difference. So I would like to say I would conditionally support this after seeing that survey that residents and other shop owners, had been contacted and, considered. That would make me feel a lot better, that this wasn't something that they weren't aware of, and they weren't included in that consideration.
Councilor Kurtz, did you?
Yes, just to clarify, my understanding is that
Alex, Mr. Stoyle, did share that information with the city as part of the application process and spoke to considering the hours, right? Sunday mornings, many shops aren't even open during that time. So that was addressed through the city's process before bringing it to council. Is that correct?
Yes, it's, well, I don't mind, he's just sitting right there. When I talk, I'm chomping at the bit. So, because I asked the same questions, and I said, you know, how the impact, and he beautifully went out, went door to door to people, talked to them and said, this is what their experience is, and I trust him, you know, that he's telling me exactly what and he found that there was full support from everybody he talked to. I'm sorry, Lindsay, I'm not ignoring you. Full support for doing this. And the only reason I brought it to you, and the reason it's on consent, is so you wouldn't have to talk about it for half an hour, but the community would know about it, and that way when they read this, they can actually see how things get done and why it is the way it is. So if somebody had a concern about it, they would have called any of you before tonight, which I don't know if anybody did. If they did, I'm sure you could bring it forward and then voice their concern, and then you could say, hey, I got a call from a constituent. I got an issue with this.
Councilor Keach.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just one last point on this. I think this is really symbolic of the way city government should work. This isn't a $50 million project. This is a really good idea that will bring economic return to downtown. But this is an example of how city government can get in the way of things. All right, we should be here to facilitate things, not be part of the problem, but part of the solution.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other discussion? Councilor Brown.
I would just love to have that circulated. That would have been wonderful if that had been included in the report. There wasn't comment about businesses in the report that we had.
Thank you, Councilor Brown. Any other discussion? I'd like to say that, as has already been mentioned, when we were working on the Main Street project, this is exactly the kind of vibrancy, the kind of project that would bring vibrancy to the downtown that we talked about. Prior to Concord Got Cool When You Weren't Looking, and I have that T-shirt, by the way, you know, this was a city in a coma, and it's entrepreneurs like Mr. Stoyle, Ms. Coyle, and many others who have really brought a sense of energy and excitement to the downtown. I think we do have a process. We have a process that works very well. The city manager and staff are very knowledgeable. They understand the downtown, both here and in Pennacook, which, by the way, I'd love to see something like this happen in Pennacook as well. And maybe when the new park is built, we'll have a venue there where we won't have to shut down the center of Pennacook, but we could have some activity there as well. So for those reasons, I will be voting in favor of the motion as presented. So I'm going to put this to the vote. Councilor, are you voting on this?
Yes, but I would like the understanding that we will receive the survey that Mr. Stoyle has.
It's not really a public hearing, but if you...
You'd rather not.
Or if the city manager would circulate that to us, that would be...
I don't know if I still have it.
Oh. Or if we could have, because that was not included in the report.
All right.
Wasn't here.
All right. I think discussion.
Can I call the question?
You may call the question. Yes, thank you very much. That's a non-debatable motion. So, Councilor, you are not going to recuse yourself. You are going to vote.
Yes, because this is, yes, I am voting.
All right. The chair would advise you, if it was the chair would recuse. But that's your choice. Okay. All right. All those in favor of the motion as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Madam Clerk, item 28.
This was pulled from the consent agenda by Councilor Kurtz and Councilor Brown. It's a report from the Parks and Recreation Director on the Community Activity Program.
Thank you. Councilor Kurtz, would you like to speak to?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I'd like to disclose that I was a volunteer nearly every weekend for this pilot program, and I'd like to speak to the success of this time that Parks and Rec set aside, 6 hours a weekend of free access to the amazing community center for all Concord kids, and it was especially successful in reaching a diverse, lower-income group of kids from the Heights neighborhood. I volunteered alongside teachers, parents, school board members, Parks and Rec coaches, individuals from other community groups, such as the Good Neighbors program from Heritage Havenwood Heights, and I got to know several families who I don't normally get to cross paths with. The feedback from these parents, grandparents, and participants was overwhelmingly positive, and they've asked that I advocate on their behalf for continuing this program. As such, I have the perspective of someone who is present at the program, and so I have a few questions for Director Gill, I think, about the report to hopefully elucidate the nature of the program.
Okay.
Am
If
I
you
allowed
don't
to?
mind, I'd like to allow Councilor Brown to speak to why she pulled it, and then I will ask for a motion, and
Okay.
then then we can call up the Parks and Rec Director for question, to answer
As you
questions.
wish.
Councilor Brown.
Yes, so I pulled this because there is $11,000 unspent, and I had the opportunity during an NHTI event to sit next to Bill Mealy, who is the Executive Director for Second Start. And they serve new Americans, refugees, immigrants by doing tutoring for adults at the community center. And they have a program or an agreement with Parks and Rec for 12 hours of tutoring, and they do it there because that's where the population is, and it's easy for them to get there. Bill was saying he needs to increase hours from 12 to 15. I also was at RPAC, our Recreation, Parks, and Advisory Committee, when the organizer for Change for Concord was requesting 2 evenings and a Friday to have gatherings. So, and I have talked to, I've seen Project Story do amazing things with the kids that they work with, and they also use the community center. And Overcomers Refugee Services, that is close to that area, they did the mural, they did the pollinator garden. So there are lots of different groups that serve the population in that immediate area. I had pulled it because I would like to see that 11,000, I would request that we change the language to a similar no-cost program offered by Parks and Rec Department to be available to any groups that serve the new American immigrant refugee population in the immediate area, so that any of those groups could apply to Parks and Rec and coordinate. That could, so Change for Concord could apply to have those funds to offset or to provide rooms. The Second Start could have those extra hours for their tutors. We have lots of different groups serving people, and I feel the community center is perfectly placed to support all those groups who are supporting new Americans and our immigrant and refugee population. So I would like to use that 11,000 to have them coordinate programs directly with Parks and Rec.
Thank you. Councilor Kretovic, are you making a motion?
I could, if you would like. I would make a motion to accept the report.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, discussion. Councilor Kretovic.
Thank you, Your Honor. It's a question for the city manager. The people that did receive funding out of the $150,000, they did apply for those, didn't they? It was an application process, and so that application process does still exist. So any one of the organizations that was mentioned, they could apply for this, correct?
They could, but I've already allocated all the money.
Okay. I will wait for further comment until we're in the budget cycle.
All right.
Thank you.
Further comment? Discussion, rather? Councilor Todd.
Yeah, thank you, Your Honor. I just want to note that in the report, actually, I believe the recommendation is that 11,000 is unspent. Staff's recommendation is to place these remaining funds, the $11,000, in an account to help fund a similar no-cost program offered by Parks and Rec. So I think if we accept the report, that's what's going to happen. Thank you.
Councilor Brown.
Your Honor, yes, and I think I will accept the report. However, I would like to make an amendment that instead of, that we cancel out the line during the winter of 2024-2025, because then the other groups could apply directly to Parks and Rec to use those funds for tutoring, for children's soccer, but it would be something that individual groups, instead of going to the city manager, would coordinate directly with Director Gill.
So you're moving an amendment
Yes, I'm making an amendment that broadens the application.
And what would the wording be?
The wording would be offered by Parks and Rec. I think I would strike during the winter of 2024-2025 for other groups serving underrepresented population.
Okay. Is there a second?
I have a question though, and I don't know, this is for David Gale or is it for the city?
Yeah, wait until we hear whether we have a second or not. All right, hearing no second, the motion fails. Councilor Sekou.
Thank you, Your Honor. My question is that the 11,000 that still exists because it's managed by Park and Rec, any organization can come and say, I want to have a tutoring room. As long as it's part of those hours, they can be allocated to them. That's my understanding, right?
Yes, go ahead.
I've already allocated those dollars someplace else.
No, the 11.
The 11,000.
It's already gone.
Yes, right. So I already have an idea of where I'd like to spend those dollars.
Oh, where you have, okay, an idea where you want to. So the original, I don't know, 16 or 20,000 that Friends of Kitch Park got.
They asked for I'll just clarify. They asked for 16. I allocated 20 because we had no idea really how much the program was going to cost.
And that was just to extend hours of operation for the community center for the kids to use.
Correct.
And that money is still going toward the kids program. That's my question. The remaining money.
The remaining money will go to another program.
Or to another program.
Right.
Councilor Kretovic.
Thank you, Your Honor. My apologies, Mr. City Manager, I have not read your budget yet. Is there another $150,000 in your budget for next year?
No, these dollars, the $150 that was appropriated by City Council this time last year City Council made it clear it was a one-time appropriation for $150,000. There was no other additional money. That was made on the last night of budget, and the City Council added that out of undesignated fund balance to do that on top of the budget that I had presented last year.
Thank you. I'll go back to my initial statement. When the budget comes up, we'll.
It'll be discussed at the next City Council meeting.
You got it. Thank you.
Allow me to ask a question of Councilor Brown. When you were talking about the Second Start program, Councilor Brown, was that the tutoring space that I worked with Second Start and the city manager to set up?
He said it was 12 hours. Mr. Mealy was going to
Right.
request 15 hours.
Right, and do I understand that that's already in play?
He's approached us, he's approached David approached me, we're discussing it right now. As you recall, we have a contract with this, it was a contract
Memorandum of
negotiation.
understanding.
That's right, and what we're gonna be doing is looking at renegotiating that contract.
Okay.
So I'll leave it at that, because we need to do it on both sides, and then anything that we would end up doing, you recall, I think, at least folks who are here, under that contract, you authorized me to have full authority to whether or not to extend that contract or not. So I will report back to you what I did.
Excellent, thank you. Councilor Schultz and then Councilor Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just confused by this, and I never mind asking the dumb question. So why are we voting on this if it's already allocated? I mean,
May?
Yeah.
It's simply a report explaining to you kind of where this is right now.
so then follow up, if I may?
Yes, you may.
So if this is designated by the Parks and Rec Department when we accept this report, if we accept it as it is, which is the motion, then it's going to stay in essentially the same neighborhood, but
I think I can help. So what would happen was if this seems like a good idea to you, that these dollars stay for running essentially a lot of the same programming work, then what I would do is I'd bring a report into you next month for you to actually accomplish that.
I think that is, if it's okay. If I'm allowed.
Certainly, follow up.
I just, in general, have heard great things about the possibilities of having something like this
Right.
continue. And just as someone who represents this ward, I think that it's anything we can do akin to this and include the folks who started this process, I think that would be wonderful. And there are a couple other community groups that I know had an interest in assisting with this or other programs. I think that anything we do along these lines has been of great benefit.
City Manager.
Mr. Gill echoes exactly what you just said. What I'd like to do is add more money to it.
I have no problem with that.
So I think you'll be all set next month.
Okay.
All right. Councilor Secretary.
So I think that answered my question, because earlier I don't think I understood your answer when you said you allocated that money already to other program. Because my question was, is this going to continue where the kids and the extended program, and that would have been my request. If it wasn't, then I would have asked if can we extend that, so because we all heard great things. I anticipated. I went to see the classroom, how the kids play. Thank you guys for volunteering and for giving the kids the platform to do so. And that was my question.
Yeah,
So-
Mr. City Manager.
So for this to extend beyond June 30th, City Council has to take action. Because if you don't take action on those dollars, they revert back to surplus and they can't be used for something else until you reallocate them. So you're going to get a report from me, as I stated, next month with a recommendation on how to spend these dollars and to run programs very much like Councilor Schultz asked.
Councilor Secretary.
Just a follow-up, thank you. I think now I'm clear for that, because I was thinking that that's done.
I'm watching out for you. That side of the river, you'll be all set.
Okay.
Any further
So
discussion?
as long as the program continues, the kids get a platform, and life is good. Thank you.
Councilor Brown.
Thank you. Clarification. So Second Start, their contract, those dollars are not coming from this.
Correct. You never appropriated dollars for Second Start. It's something it's an allowance we made within the operational program of Park and Recreation to make those hours work. And that was engineered primarily by, at that time, Councilor Champlin. And then we're looking at and saying, if it really does well, should we look, and the idea was if it really does well and folks still want to participate in it, it should be something we continue and or expand. So that's something we'll be bringing back to you very shortly.
Because it's been successful.
Because it's in the first year that contract is running out. To extend it within that contract is a line that essentially says the city manager has to determine at their own sole discretion whether or not to extend the program.
Thank you. Are we ready for the vote?
Yes.
All right. All those in favor of the motion as presented, the motion being to accept the report. Councilor, did you have a question?
No.
All right.
No.
All those in favor of approving the motion as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no? Ayes have it. Thank you very much. The next item on our agenda is a suspense item. Do I hear a motion to suspend the rules to accept this item?
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no? Rules are suspended. Madam City Clerk, and I don't have my item in front of me.
Suspense one.
Suspense one, thank you, suspense one.
It's a referral to the Transportation Policy Advisory Committee. It's a communication from George Tilley requesting consideration be given to reinstalling speed limit signs on Bridge Street.
Thank you very much. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
I
Councilor
have a
Floyd.
question. So did I read correctly that you want to reduce it to 15 miles per hour?
That's the request from the applicant, yes.
Okay, so I think state law sets minimum you can go is 25 miles per hour.
Correct. So that's what will come back in the report about whether
Oh, okay.
whether or not the
All right.
city should.
Okay.
This is being referred to. Yeah,
Right.
we are
So you
just,
didn't have that
for clarity, yeah,
conversation with the- okay.
we are not
You're too
approving
efficient.
this.
You're
Yeah, we're not approving this, we are referring this to
I
committee.
understand, but I'm
Okay.
surprised the conversation hadn't.
Right.
Yeah.
So-
All right.
That clarifies it.
Did we take the vote? Gee, now I lost
Yeah.
track.
Yeah.
We did, thank you very much, all right.
You want to take the vote?
All right. Well, then in that case, I think we're at the end of our agenda, and I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I don't think we did. We
didn't take
the
the
clerk
vote
would
on
know. Did you take the vote? No.
No.
Oh, we didn't take the vote. Well, thank you.
Wishful thinking.
Madam Clerk, give me an elbow. All right, sorry.
take it out as a
Threw me off stride. All right, all those in favor favor of approving the motion as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Thank you. Now I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Counselor Kurt, seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Yeah. Just as a reminder, we're back here at 5:30 Thursday night for the city manager's presentation of his budget, of his proposed budget.
Why do we? Why?